welcome to the Football 360 show. Back at it again. JP Rock here. He is Matt Bierman. Beautiful, beautiful fall afternoon. It's football weather. There's our socials. You want to reach out to us, JP Rock MO, JP Rock Scout You on Instagram, JP Rock MO on X, of course, and Elite Football on X, Mr. Bierman, Elite Football Academy on the gram. Great places. Reach out. You got a question, go ahead and ask us, and we'll be happy to do it. Love it when we have listeners ask us stuff, which has been happening in the past
more
few
and
weeks.
more. Yeah,
more and more. Well, you know, the off season has happened for some people, unfortunately.
whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not, here it comes.
Yep.
It's right there, and it's a shame too, because and you're seeing more of that. The deeper we get into the playoffs, you're seeing some good teams just bounce out. Eureka was a major surprise that happened. I thought I was looking forward to the Eureka Cardinal Ritter matchup that I thought was going to happen. Of course, we're going to get a really good Eureka Lafayette matchup.
No, Eureka.
I'm sorry, Cardinal Ritter.
Cardinal Ritter Lafayette. Yeah, and
but
we missed the Eureka Lafayette rematch.
We did,
right?
Yeah. Which happens, which is can be shocking, but a lot of great football, and this is good weather for it. Hopefully, we don't freeze this weekend. It gets pretty cold, but it's just like yesterday was so nice, and now it's a little cooler, but it's more fall like. A little windy. Deeper you get, the deeper you get. I remember being in Kansas City at Liberty North CBC, and it's like you got the mask on, you're all and you still got like the icicles forming on your.
Oh yeah.
And with the sinus stuff, the nose is running. It's fun.
And then you're out there playing, and
see that's better. You'd be better.
You're warm.
Absolutely, you're out. You don't feel it. You're out there running around playing.
Yeah, I think. As a player, those are the ones you never forget because they're so much fun.
Absolutely.
And then, but as a fan or let's say an observer, because you're just there. If you're a parent, it's different because you're adrenaline, you're nervous, you have so much invested in the game.
Yeah.
But as a someone that can get in their car and leave at any time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you question being out there.
You do. You want to position your car where you can see the field.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hey, I'm a parent sometimes at sports games.
I was gonna say.
I've spent my fair share of days out in the elements, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I've taken I've been some rainy and wet and cold, and, windy.
Well, you're just describing one of your boom tryouts you had last year. Remember that?
Oh,
it was indoors at
Rams Park.
Yep. And no, it was
Veta.
Veta, and
our second one,
it was so many kids, and
we had to go outside because there was so many. Yeah, we had 2 full fields full of kids, and then actually, so that's a good lead in. We have another tryout Wednesday, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, which should be a really good one. A lot of kids will be unfortunately done with their seasons, and the vast majority should be. And it'll be that morning, 9:30 to about 11:30. We'll have both groups coming in, the 13, 14U, and then our 15 and 18U. So
sweet.
Should be good
I led
numbers.
you that. I led you that way. I'm a professional.
Should be
now.
a really good turnout. Should be fun to see.
And which really
guys that are kind of rebooting, and
guys coming back
out of
it. Guys come in. Guys who are on other teams, and it's like that. It's not their thing. Pop on over, and with Boom, you get the chance to play for the national.
I can tell you right now, there's 2 kids that they are, St. Louis kids targeting to go play OT7, which is cool, right? It's really cool because you get to go, and we've had some local teams lying to kids, telling them that they're playing OT7s, and that's an invite deal, that's a national prominence deal. And from the Midwest, from what I've seen, at least the last 2-3 years, the only Midwest team is Midwest Boom, and then the rest are the Floridas, the Californias.
And it'd be so much better for a local guy to stick locally instead of playing for a California team or a Florida team.
Yeah,
and I know that they make it sound pretty sweet and promise some stuff, but
and then they
make them sign contracts or something.
Yeah,
like
they
that.
do. A lot of it's connected to NIL and things like that. Like we just don't play in that world because that's not. I don't think it's the appropriate thing to do.
No.
Right? I mean, there's a lot of our kids. I was telling the kids at the tryout this past Friday. If you just look at the alumni of Boom, the guys that are current in the NFL are current Division I starters. I mean, it is.
Super impressive.
It's wild. I mean, it is really wild. And that's at the quarterback position. That's at the receiver position, DB, linebackers. I mean, there is a wide variety of guys that have done it.
In fact, I would say that pretty much every one of your quarterbacks you've had playing with Boom are college quarterbacks.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of one that hasn't been.
I mean, yeah,
right.
Yeah, right. I mean,
seriously.
And it's so and then you look at each year, that group that slides up to be the senior group, if you will, right? And that's tough because those guys, a lot of them are doing recruiting stuff. They've done it for so long. So Dylan Duff last year was like, hey, look, he'd done 7-on-7 since he started in middle, at the end of middle school through high school. And his recruiting's going on. He got dinged up in basketball season. And he's like, hey, I'll do it, but it's like at that point, it probably didn't benefit him and it freed up a spot for someone else. So he's like, yeah, well, if I'm able to do it, I'll do it for sure. Right. But he did it 3 years prior and he got what he needed out of it. Right. And so, but the next man up type of scenario. And I think you see a lot of those quarterbacks that are the higher level kids. Like we've got some really good 8th grade, 9th grade quarterbacks that
I'm
fast forward a few years from now, those guys are going to be guys that are getting offers, and really interesting to see the evolution. And you can see 1 year a kid gets really, like last year, maybe not as confident.
Mm-hmm.
And we had 2 7th grade quarterbacks come in that I would argue probably, 2 of the top throwers in the country that age group, just because what I know and what I see.
Do they train at Elite?
Yeah.
Okay, then I've seen them. I know. I think I know who you're talking about.
So it's like, wow.
So are they local guys or regional guys?
One local, one
region
up in Illinois. Yeah. Middle of Illinois. So and you're watching them throw, and it's like, dang. Really good arms, very, very technically sound, but they've trained since they've been little kids, and it doesn't surprise you when you see them in action, right? And there's other kids that show up that you maybe aren't as prepared, and maybe on their team they don't throw that much, right? And that's where 7-on-7 could help a kid like that get in the rhythm. But a kid that comes in that's certainly prepared has a huge advantage.
And it does help with the skill set. I was talking with Jack Brown from Francis Howell yesterday. Actually, I was doing an interview with him, and he credited Boom with his season this year with helping him with his route running. He said it really helped me get better with my route running. And here he set a school record this year, like a 270 yard game, right?
JP, I will tell you, I watched him early in the season at 7-on-7. I was like, okay, he's doing a good job. He's a big kid. He's young.
Right.
He's like a baby, right? Because he's only a freshman, but he's big.
Baby gazelle, yeah, baby gazelle.
But he moves well.
Yep.
I'm telling you, I watched him come into his own last year in 7-on-7, taking games over. And then where it became pronounced was he was like, well, I'm going to play linebacker too. And then he goes out and makes a big, huge pick.
Yeah.
And so more than anything, I think it just helps with confidence and the ability to know that you can go back to your team and be the guy that they need you to be. And his coaching staff does a really good job. He's going to be a major national guy.
He already is. This past week he picked up offers from Wisconsin and Iowa State, and interestingly, his coach, one of his coaches, contacted me. He's like, hey, because he was like, how do we get? And I'm like, it's coming. I'm like, don't worry about the fan sites or what they're doing with you, because And he was under the impression that and he actually had a college coach tell him that some of the colleges are just looking at the fan sites and picking out who to recruit. I'm like, well, they're not good. What's their record? Mm-hmm. Right? Because that's lazy. If you're relying on the fan sites, you're done. You're not going to win. It's just, I think you have to have your own evaluation
could do
system.
It then, right?
Exactly. Let's do it. But no, Jack he really praised Boom and on that. And I'm telling you what, man, he's a legit 6'5" now. He's filling out.
He could not be a nicer kid. His
such a good,
dad's
humble
a
kid.
Good guy. Yep. They're what's good in the process, because there's some people I had a conversation with a major Division I coach this week about something to kind of with a player that we're dealing with. And it was interesting, his take on a few things. And one of the things is we start talking about like the demand for money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, there's that fine balance of getting what you should deserve
and what you want
and being over the top, unrealistic, and then being offended if someone doesn't give it to you. Right. Whereas 2 years ago, this conversation wasn't even really happening.
Yeah.
And suddenly now you demand $1 million, or whatever it might be.
There's a lot of offended kids out there, by the way.
And this guy is very involved in doling out the money for his particular team at a high level, big budget. And you could just tell. And I even said to him, I said, listen, at some point, it's okay that they're getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
But as a parent, like your number one responsibility is to make sure your child does well long-term in the life. So whether they're getting $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, it's what are you doing with that money? Are you saving it?
Correct.
Are you doing the right things to set you up? Because someone they fight for the deal and they get $30,000 a month, $360,000 a year, and the kid blows it, right? The money's gone. You could make the argument that the negotiation was purely out of greed and not for setting someone up for the rest of their life. I understand, like, because the same kid could have gotten $100,000, invested that money, and will be in a better position than that kid that was a $360,000 kid that literally did nothing, like bought cars and chains and went out on
lived the lifestyle
and
impressed some people, had some parties,
right. And so I can understand. I cannot imagine coaching in that environment with the college coaches. I can't. And
you're having to put out a lot more fires than normal with stuff like that. And it really does. And it's like you're giving younger people like that a lot of money. How are they handling it mentally? Mm-hmm. Right? Are they like, well, you're paying me $600,000, so you're going to listen to me, coach? You know what I mean? That kind of a thing.
Well,
you enter large sums of money into stuff, and it really changes the dynamic, the coaching dynamic.
Well, there's
how you're dealing with people.
So the kid that Bryce Underwood, that's the top quarterback in the country, supposedly he was offered north of $10 million over 4 years to go to Michigan.
Yeah.
And he's committed to LSU.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm him, I might be looking at Michigan at this point, because LSU's will probably have a coaching change before long.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That you can just see it's getting ready to implode. And what's crazy is, like, they're not really that bad. They just haven't had a great season. They're not horrible, but last season they underperformed. This season they've a little underperformed, but they've been in the games. I mean, they're not getting blown out.
Right. But at that level of a program, they don't accept that. You know what I mean? There are programs. In fact, I was having a conversation with a coach about various local programs and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you're doing well. You might only have 3 losses. You're whatever. You're ranked team, but you're not there yet, right? So you got to be careful with how you're recruiting. You can't recruit as if you're Alabama,
correct,
or you're Texas. So they need to do a little better as far as the recruiting and the development with relationships with kids.
So, correct. Funny LSU story. Years ago, we had multiple linemen that were being viewed, and we had an LSU coach show up at the facility to watch. Brian Wallace, Armand Watts, who's in the NFL. God rest Brian Wallace's soul. He passed away way too close. Such a great
guy, yeah.
We need to talk about him someday.
We really do. We really do. I mean, and what's interesting and what's sad is I remember seeing it the last time I saw him. He was at the Elite Combine, which March the 8th, 2025.
He worked with us on a Sunday.
And he was and
passed away on a Monday.
And it's so wild. I saw him there, and he was all upbeat and excited about his future as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
He was getting into the training and the coaching and working with you guys. And just a sad story. We really need to talk about. Such a good guy. And what's so funny is
great parents.
First time I met him was at an Elite Combine, and it was like when we were just getting started. So I guess I can't even remember, but here he was, an 8th grader, and he was 6 foot. Yeah, 6'6", 280 pounds already, like that, and just such a soft spoken, but you could tell. And I remember talking with his dad and saying how, hey, you really got something there.
Army ended up being an Army All-American, went to Arkansas.
Yep.
If I can dig it out, his last year at Arkansas, they changed strength coaches, and I can show you the picture. Oh, it's unbelievable. That showed him from what he looked like, with I think it was, I forgot who the coach was, the Brett Bielema era. I think whoever it was.
It wasn't Pittman, was it?
I don't know. The strength coach came in, whoever it was.
Okay.
But his body changed that last year. It was unreal. And then he ended up playing, he got picked up by the Broncos, played in the NFL. And then it was kind of the COVID era. And then he ended up with the Battle Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
And then the XFL went away.
Right.
So so God rest his soul. But
dude,
so sorry, we got derailed on that, but it's worth talking about Brian Wallace, such a great guy. So Brian Wallace, Armand Watts, and somebody else. There was another big time lineman. Okay. All three, I think maybe Rennell were in. All guys that ended up playing in the NFL. And so this coach is in there, Coach Stradawa, Coach Stud, they call him. I don't even know where he's at now.
Yeah.
So he watches them work out. This is good for everybody to hear this too. He's there to watch those three studs. There's other kids training on the track, and he sees a kid, Zach Munez, who was at CBC at the time, just doing a sprint work, doing a performance training class. And while these guys are on a water break, walks over, goes, "Hey, who are you? Who do you play for?"
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Man, you move really well." Just watching him do a bounding drill, and got his information, all that stuff. So anyway, he's in there. He watches these guys train, and I remember saying, "Hey, do you need a ride somewhere or something?" Because I saw him get dropped off, and he's like, "Oh no, I'll get a car to pick me up." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Well, where are you going now?" And you go back to Louisiana. He's like, "Oh no, I'm flying to California." So okay, so he was coming out to the Chesterfield Airport where we're at, getting on a private jet, and he said, at LSU, you don't have a recruiting budget. And this always stuck with me. He goes, "It only runs out when you get fired.
Boom.
There's no budget."
Yep.
He's like literally, he's like, there's not a budget. So he's like, I've been on the plane all day, just one coach flying on a private jet around to go see everybody.
Yeah.
Right. Now he's somewhere else now. I don't know where he's at, but
that I mean, that's big time football.
Yep.
And some people don't understand that. People you might think that you're a fan of a big time football program, but there's levels.
Oh yeah.
And you might be successful, but there are some programs out there that is just
different,
unbelievable.
And that's why there's Brian Kelly's not winning. They go down to Florida, get beat. That's why there's pressure. They're not gonna put up with it.
Right.
And they know not that long ago they won a national title with Joe Burrow, so they want that. I mean, shoot, they fired that coach 2 years later.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And paid him millions. Coach O's running around getting paid millions still just to not coach.
It's fascinating. And there's going to be a lot of that happening. I know there's some high school coaches are going to, I've already, there's already been some that have resigned, some have stepped down. And unfortunately, there's just some programs that's just nothing you can do. I mean, you could be a really great coach, but you got to have the talent. You got to have the players. You got to have the backing.
It's interesting because you start to see, like, I like last night I watched Brett Gabbert was playing the the MACtion. They do the Tuesday, Wednesday night in November, and they're on a run, like a 6-game win streak. I mean, pretty damn good, and ranked number 1 in the MAC. Going to go to a bowl game. But yeah, it's fun watching those guys. But then you start looking at some of those schools. Ball State's already clipped their coach.
Yep.
I saw Charlotte's clipped their coach, right? Like it's starting to happen, right? And so the crappy part is there's kids that are committed to those programs, and what do you do when you're in that scenario and now all of a sudden you don't have a coach? The guy that we're dealing with is gone, right? Or what if you're at one of those schools and now that guy's gone?
Right.
I think those are real world scenarios that, sometimes just stay in the course is the best, easiest way to do it. But sometimes leaving.
Well, what you do, and this is whether there's a coaching change or whether you've been committed to a school a long time, is you listen. right? You always listen. You always, what do you got to say? And some kids will struggle with that because they're like, oh man, I'm committed. I'm loyal to this. you know, but just like you said, they clip that one coach, or they might be committed to a school and everything's stable. That coach might leave for a better job.
Right.
And so you always have to, I always tell kids, I'm like, don't fall in love with a coach or staff. I go, if you want to fall in love with the school, that's fine. You want, because you wouldn't, obviously you're going there for academic reasons, but don't have this unrealistic feeling of loyalty because it is a business.
So
and you're going to have to do what's best for you, and parents are going to have to do what's best for the kid.
So in that same vein, and I don't have all the details because we haven't talked fully yet, but I have enough grasp of the situation. Justin Thurman committed to Notre Dame, hard commit for quite some time.
Flipped to
Kansas last second, and I think some of that is the impetus was coaching, some shifting going on, maybe at Notre Dame, and then like, hey, looking at the backfield, what they have,
yes,
and them saying, hey, look, this may not be as quick as you want it to be, right? Are you willing to stay this long, or what?
Or are you willing to switch to cornerback, or are you willing to switch?
Right, that stuff happens.
That happens, right?
And you would rather have a program be transparent and say that before you sign on the dotted line, and have to then transfer, and so what's nice is his first offer was Kansas.
Yeah.
And he ends up there. And I think that's a great fit.
Huge pickup for Kansas.
It's a really, really good pickup for them. And I think, they're starting to kind of heat up as a season. It was a rough start for them.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately for Justin, Kansas ends up being a better place. Sure, the Notre Dame thing, probably, he was a great fit. My gosh.
He was.
If ever there was a perfect kid, like as far as like program guy, good person, great family, just
Justin,
salt of the earth kid, like just
Justin's another kid. You come back to it comes full circle. First met Justin, 8th grader, elite football combine, right? Trained at elite, just tore it up, played at DeSmet until his family moved down to Tampa, transferred to Tampa Jesuit. So it's interesting how this all, comes back and connects.
Yep. And so, but see, they're well thought out. They're smart.
Very much so.
Like he had something in like there's kids about to commit recruiting nightmares for themselves because like he decommitted and had somewhere to go.
Yeah.
There's kids that are going to decommit within the next week or two that have been hard commits.
Yeah.
Which is playing roulette.
Yeah.
Russian roulette.
With the portal, yes.
Literally, because the portal's going on at the same time, and you can get squeezed, absolutely get squeezed out of the game, right? And think you're a big deal. I mean, what people don't understand is, okay, sure, there's a kid that has 20 offers, okay? And that's the national kid, right? Well, it all boils down and ends up being about 3 to 4 schools that really end up mattering, that really want you and you want them, right? But I can tell you firsthand, I know numerous kids have been in our area that have been those national guys over the years where, they have offers from every school in the country, right? And when it boils down to it on signing day, there's only 1 or 2 places they really can sign because everybody else is full. Like other people have moved on. And it's not that you couldn't have gone there. It's that you did not dance the dance with them and they just went another direction.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
circumstances beyond your control.
Right. And you can only keep so many plates spinning, right, in the recruiting world. So like things naturally start to collapse down as you get closer to signing day. But these kids that have the 5 hats and are doing all that stuff, and then they're still thinking they have leverage, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them don't have the leverage they used to. Yes, you have leverage when it comes to NIL and making money. That's great. But getting to the school that's the right school and the right fit, sometimes you can squeeze yourself out of it. So, I'm hearing of people that may decommit from, hard, long, hard commitments. I mean, like I remember a few years ago, there was a kid who waited through the early signing period, was going to sign on the second one. He was like a high level recruit.
Yeah.
and he ended up going to a school that was much lower, like FCS level. And like, why? Well, because unfortunately, like the hard commit that he was, we started playing around with games and doing other visits and things like that, and they lost interest, and now you're going to an FCS.
And to that end, you are seeing a lot of that. There are a lot of guys who are going to FCS schools or lower who could play at a higher level, but the portal's changed everything, right? And if you're not getting recruited to the level that you think you are, blame that, right? It's not about you. It's about the system that we're currently under. And so don't feel bad about, oh, well, because I have kids and I'm like, so what's going on with recruiting? And they're like almost put their head down. Oh, well, I'm getting. Don't feel bad about that. Go where you're wanted. Go where you're going to be given the opportunity. Go where you're going to have the best fit for you. Yeah. And because it's a journey. It's not the end, as we're seeing with guys and the portal. That's the whole thing behind the portal is, go check it out. Do your best. It's really up to you. If you feel you're under recruited and you go to a school and you perform, it's not the end for you. You have more options.
But most people don't want that. They want the here and now.
They want here and now. Yep. And I'll talk to a kid. I'm like, so what, with what I do the whole profile thing on them. What school do you like? Every time, it's, well, Notre Dame, Alabama. I'm like, son, let's be a little more realistic.
Have they communicated with you at all?
Right. I'm like, so what about other schools? You look at the directional schools, any school. Yeah. What about Northwest Missouri State? That's a really nice school. Central Missouri.
No, you didn't hear me. I said Alabama.
Right. I said I like Alabama and Michigan. I'm like, okay. Well, we'll see.
So, and that's another thing. It's like, okay, so you use like Jack Brown and Ridge James as great examples because they're both getting a lot of offers right now. Now, they're both younger, right? So you have a sophomore and a freshman respectively. You'll see those offers flow with those younger guys because people are starting to feed and they're going to realize they're going to have to fight to get those guys, right? Because there's too many offers. Whereas these guys that are juniors, they're kind of caught in no man's land because the seniors are getting taken care of. The young guys, they got to get their stamp on. They want to, but like the guys that are the juniors that have offers or a few offers are not getting a lot of contact right now because that guy's the next group up. So they're too close. And so you're not going to have this feeding frenzy. Usually the feeding frenzy is on the younger guys that they're hot guys coming out of their freshman and sophomore years. Right. And
that's what I'm getting right now.
You see it all the time.
Yeah. What about these guys? Right. Well, I'm already getting what about the 27, 28s? Who's this? Who's the guy? And so you're right. You're absolutely right.
It is crazy. So, but then it makes those kids that are the 26s right now, makes them feel like they're not doing anything, but that's not what it's just not their time yet.
Exactly.
But they were going to be a national guy. It probably would already happened when they were a freshman, sophomore, which sounds horrible because you're like, I wasn't even ready yet. Right. And I'm better than that. And it's like, it's just the game.
So for those guys, the 2026 guys who are not hearing a lot right now, which unless you're certain guys, you're not. None of them are really. But if you're a 2026 guy, you need to be focusing. If you're finishing your season in the playoffs, focus on that. Once you're done, you better focus on what am I going to do to elevate my profile in the eyes of coaches. And you better have a strategy and you better have a path, both from a training aspect and from what's your plan as far as getting yourself out there in front of college coaches and looking at what events do I need to go to? I always tell kids, you want to go to the Elite Combine, you want to go to the KC Varsity Combine, then you want to look at the Big Daddy of Lindenwood, which is going to give you the most exposure to the most coaches at one time. And then you got to look at various college camps that you want to attend on every level, right? Especially if you're not hearing from the big schools at all. You want to go to as many as you can, and stagger them. Go to the bigger school, individual camp, but then go to every camp that you can. And that's really the path forward if you're a 2026 kid and you're not getting a lot of attention yet.
Yeah. And it's hard because you're working your butt off and you're doing everything you can. but usually though it gets really difficult before the breakthrough, right? So you got to just keep working, keep pushing.
If you keep building,
keep exposing
do
yourself.
what you're supposed to do, it will come. If you're that dude, right? If you are a dude, a lot of guys think they are the dude, but they're not. But your mission is to prove everybody wrong. Right, just get that opportunity and prove everybody wrong.
You see, like even like in a tryout scenario or like a skills training class, the scenario, it's pretty easy. There's certain individuals who possess skill sets that other people do not possess, right? And that could be intuition, throwing a ball, that could, like where the ball's supposed to be. That could be just finding a way to catch the ball no matter what position you're in, right? And recovery speed, stuff like that is very it's noticeable, right? It's noticeable to all of the us that know what we're looking at. Whereas sometimes people look through a lens that's like not very realistic, and they're like, "Yeah, but I'm better than this guy, and I'm better than this guy," and it's
all
like
the time.
Yeah, but okay, I'll give you a great example, and I'll use his name. A couple kids, a number of weeks ago, like they saw, I think Jacob Eberhard had gotten offered by, I think Mizzou.
Yep.
And so then immediately, what do the kids do? They go to look at his stats. And no, his stats aren't that great on a receiver. Yeah, actually they are. If you think about it, I think half of every ball he caught, he scored.
Yes.
Okay. So that is a stat line that pops, right? And usually those are big plays for him. I think he had like a 99-yard or 95-yard touchdown, broke a record. And he had numerous like just long ones, right? Which tells you when you have someone that's that big. So they're looking like, oh, he's only got like 12 catches at that point or whatever it was during the year. And then you watch his film though, and he closes on people like he's a kid that's probably not going to play receiver in high school. I mean, college. He's going to play in high school. Yeah, right. Yep. So he's going to probably be a backer or safety, something like just come light you up, whatever it is. Edge guy. Yeah, right. He could be William Lee, who went to Kirkwood too, that started out as a DB and receiver, and then played defensive end at Kirkwood, and then shifted back. Now he's one of the top corners coming out.
Well, I've seen Jason play cornerback, which is crazy. He's 6'3", 210 pounds, but I think he might continue the family tradition. And if you play him, put him on the edge. Yep. I mean, just crazy. You've seen him, how explosive he is, and just whether it's at receiver or whatever, that first step, man, he's gone.
So he's dad played at Illinois.
Yep.
And Marcus Golden, he's related to Marcus Golden, who's just wrapped his NFL career up.
Right. That's good. That's good.
Antonio Phillips, his brother, played in the NFL for a short period of time, but starter at Ball State, I believe.
Yep. So that's there. But back to the stats thing. Stats don't get you recruited. They don't mean a thing in recruiting. I was just having a conversation with somebody about a player who has played limited varsity action this season, but already has a couple offers. And the person wanted to know, well, how does that happen? And I said, well, he was a known quantity, right? Really good athlete. They know about him. He's been to camps, whatever. Been known since he was a middle schooler, right?
He got good lineage.
Right, exactly. And then they wanted to point out how well their kid in middle school had over 1,000 yards receiving or something like that. And it's like that doesn't factor into it.
It doesn't.
There's a lot of just what you said. But if you're counting on high school stats, because I'm telling you what, there's some guys who the all-time state leading rusher. That's great. And hang on to that, does not translate to you're going to be a lot
of times the high level, the guys that lead the stat lines in passing, like the guys that break state records, all that, it's usually a smaller offense that doesn't really translate. I was talking to someone the other day. I forgot they were talking about one of the teams. They pass every down.
Yeah.
And I said, how's the quarterback? He said, oh, he's throwing for a ton of yards. He's not a college guy, though.
Right. There's a kid down in Braemar, Missouri, right? Just unbelievable, man. He's, and he's a good kid. He's come to KC varsity. I think he might have come to elite, but it's 8-man football. You're going to put us a ton of yardage, passing, rushing, whatever. That doesn't translate to you're going to be a big time recruit.
Right.
It just doesn't, because there's great high school football players, and then there's college prospects, and they're guys who are not necessarily padding the stats. They're not stat monsters in high school, but they have the other intangibles and the other stuff that college coaches are looking for. So, the stats are great. So it's funny that they're like, look at stats. And I've had that with other kids before. A kid will get offered and they'll be like, well, what about me? I have better numbers. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. You play the same position. This young man who just got the offer that think you're better than, he's 6'5", 240. You're 6'1", 6'2", 220. Play the same position. I go, it's going to factor in whether you like it or not.
It has to.
That's just how it goes.
And like for quarterbacks, you look. There's certain things you look at, okay, where it's how they move. It's how the ball comes off their hand, right? When you're at a 7-on-7 tryout, you can see there's 2 to 3 kids per age group where you're like, oh, there he is, right? And so, or you're at a combine or whatever. That's how a kid like a Brett Ottensmeyer goes unknown and shows up at Lindenwood last year as an 8th grader, going to be a freshman. I think that's what it was. The guy from Arkansas walked in and said, hey, do you know who that is? And, there's certain kids, the ball comes off and it's aesthetically pleasing and the ball jumps off their hands. And so coaches are programmed to see that, right? And there's also an aesthetic side. Do they drop good? All that stuff.
I always like looking at like technique, footwork.
Yes.
You gotta have, if you have the good footwork and how you your hip, how you move your hip, and the ball usually will jump off your hand.
If your feet are good and your everything's lined up. So one of our young quarterbacks, I saw, we did there's a service that does it's like a rating, that not like a hardcore rating, but like for quarterbacks, like, hey, here's what you did good, here's things you can work on or whatever. It was a younger quarterback, and the analysis, which was what I kind of would say too, was, hey, carry out your fakes, just general reminders. It's always good to have someone else tell your quarterback something that you've already told them, right? And the guy's analysis essentially was, hey, look, it's pretty clear to see if you stay on the same path you're on today, you're a Division I quarterback. It's pretty obvious, right?
Right.
But you and I both know there's so many things that have to happen, and that's size, and that's athleticism needs to continue. That's losing interest or not losing interest in the game, retaining interest and working at it. Because we've seen so many things where kids just give up, or injuries or illness or whatever it might be. Yep. So I think if you are able to overcome a lot of that stuff, I mean, like, you and I can see kids in 7th, 8th, 9th grade and tell you this guy's going to be a guy, right? I mean, you can see that. Like, it's not that difficult. Now, as a parent, it's sometimes really hard to see through your own bias of your own child. And I will say
100%.
There are some parents that are way too hard on their kids, and there's some parents that are way too rose-colored glasses with their kids, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so you get that, you have both of those, ends of the spectrum, if you will. And truth is, usually the kid's closer to the middle, right?
Yeah.
And so you just have to be honest with yourself and listen to people that know what they're talking about, and allow that to
make sure you know what they're talking about, because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to act like they know what they're talking about. And there are people who do stuff to earn money off of pretending like they know what they're talking about, or whether it's like you're going to write a blurb about your kid or whatever, and it's just a word salad, and it's just like, find people who actually know what they're talking about and help you out, because parents are really just in the dark, as the process goes, as you well know.
Let me tell you, I spend a pretty good amount of my time talking with parents and kids about the recruiting process and strategies and things they can do, and just kind of letting them know, like, they're in a good spot, or they have work to do, or keep doing what they got to, staying on the plan.
And you're also honest.
Yeah, you gotta be.
You're also honest. If a guy's not it, gently let them know that where they will wind up most likely.
Like
some people don't do that.
Sometimes the discussion is, hey, look, you are a high school whatever, and you will not play that in college.
Right.
And then you don't want to be the person dashing their dreams, but you have to start to set them up for hey, there's going to be a day and time where you need to have these skill sets. So you should start working on them to some degree.
Right.
Because if you don't, it's not going to go your way. I'm just telling you, I've done this long enough to know. Or if you want to keep playing that position, you need to do it at the D3 level.
Correct. We were just having that conversation beforehand. A young man out of Kansas City who reached out to me who, was what can he do to better himself, to improve himself, make it on the next level. And we were having that discussion. He wants to play quarterback, right? In his profile, he's had that he was 5'11", 160 pounds. He wants to be a D1 quarterback. And so I was trying to explain to him about, he needs to train skill sets for where he's most likely going to play. Everybody wants to be what they want to be, but you have to have reality check. And he, so he reached out to you about it. So he may or may not. He says he wants to come over from KC, so we'll see.
So the tough thing is when, say he's a freshman, okay, you got time. But if you're a junior, you're going to be a senior, and you're going to try and make that transition to quarterback, you have to be realistic in the sense of, I'm not saying you can't play quarterback, but from a recruiting standpoint, it's probably not happening, right?
Yeah.
Even if you come out and you are the next Michael Vick, they're not they're not spending time seeing you be that Michael Vick because they've already recruited all the kids for that class, right? I mean, they are starting to line up the 26 kids and kind of figure out who's who, and they're gonna start picking them off one by one, right? Yep. And that's just the way it goes. And so, this is kind of a adjacent comment, but think of it in these terms. So there's let's say there's 130-ish Division I FBS programs, and that's everybody's dreams to go play FBS Division I football.
Yeah.
So say the vast majority of those schools, they take 1 to 1, or 2 quarterbacks, right? So let's just say average out 1.5 quarterbacks. So there's 100 and let's just call it like 220 something quarterbacks get taken a year, right, out of high school to play FBS. That's probably that's actually probably a high number because most teams are only taking one.
Yeah.
So let's just say they round up a little bit. So that's just 200. Okay. Let's make no mistake. They don't make that many mistakes on kids. So anybody playing at that level is probably not a bum, right? Sure, a few sneak through there, but by and large, when there's thousands, and you go down to 200, it's usually pretty whittled down, right? So the same kids are fighting for 200 spots. Then you make it on the field and you start, right? Those odds are really difficult to even put into words how hard that is. And then you have people that then ride these kids and act as though they suck, right? So I rarely, if ever, make comments on anything social media related or the Facebook or any of that stuff. And a friend of mine had written a nice thing about he just can't understand why people are so negative towards Brady Cook.
Yeah.
So then some guy writes and puts his 2 cents in and just was really negative about Brady, and then they decided he was going to dog on Blaine Gabbert and Drew Lock because they were, as he described it, slightly above average.
Yeah.
So let's just get this clear. We went from tens of thousands of quarterbacks down to 200 in a class. Then you go down to 130 of those guys are actual starters. And then of that, maybe 50 to 60 are multi-year starters, right? Of that, very few have completion percentage above 60% and start 20-something games, right? So then you whittle that down. And there's about 20 of those guys, right? So to say someone let's just use Blaine Gabbert and Drew Lock. Blaine finished up a 12-year career in the NFL. Drew Lock is still playing, getting $5 million this year to play for the Giants.
Yeah. Tell him he sucks.
Yeah, he sucks. He's
going to feel bad about that.
Slightly above average.
Yeah.
So, but to hear people talk like that, it's really difficult to listen to it. But then you're like, well, they have no context. The guy has no idea
Bingo.
what he's talking about, and he watches football a couple hours a week, and good for him.
They're literally a bad fan, and what I mean about that is they don't know what they're looking at. They don't know what they're talking about. They have no concept of what it takes, what people have been through, or being in that position. So they're going to spew whatever stupidity that they have. Play video games if you want to be like that.
Right. And then,
you know what I mean? Play Madden.
But the problem is, and this is what comes down to, is so many people, especially in football, I'm sure it's the exact same in baseball and hockey and basketball, but because they played a little football, right now they're super uber disconnected from the game.
Yep.
They don't realize that they are, because they've been a fan of the game and they've watched football since they've got done.
I've watched my whole life. I know what I'm talking about.
So you have that issue. So like this guy's, he's a armchair quarterback.
Yeah.
And so, he believes that he understands what he's looking at, and he doesn't. And they simply put, because let me tell you, NFL scouts, they're paid to figure out what's what, right? And yes, are there guys that have been bust? Yeah, but a guy that sticks around in the NFL for 12 years is not a bust.
Yeah.
A guy that's in the NFL 1 to 2 years, Ryan Leaf, that was a problem, right?
Yeah.
Now, you can make the argument, if Ryan Leaf ends up in a different system, he has a great career. So there's a lot of variables that people don't even consider when they say someone's a bust, right?
Just making it to the NFL, you're not a bust, because just the whole everything it takes to get to that level,
to whittle down to be that level of guy in college, to be considered for that means you are the elite of the elite. Like it is what it is. And so there's under 100 guys in the country, adult males out of 150 million males that are playing in the NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
And it's probably closer to 70 dudes.
Right.
70.
It's a small
practice
club.
squads and backups,
club.
all that. It's just very elite club.
Mm-hmm.
And to sit there and say, Brady Cook's not going to this and that. And it's like, well, yeah, but I'm talking to teams that are doing their due diligence on him, that are calling about him and wanting to get detail on him, right? And they're saying the things, they're clearly doing their research, because I'm repeating things that someone else has repeated to him about his character and what he can do, and da. And the people are they're in agreement. This guy's a guy that can play at this level. So where does he get drafted? Does he go to the right team? All that stuff is variables that are beyond his control and our control, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to listen to people talk, and so and just spew really just kind of hateful things, because Mizzou lost this weekend. Did Brady Cook put them in a position to win? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that pass that he threw at the end of the game to Burden with under a minute 30 to go, put him up by 4. The defense didn't tackle, right? I mean, it sucks, but it put him in a position to win. And they didn't talk too much about it. Now it's kind of coming out more and more, and I've known this for weeks. He's playing with a broken wrist.
Yep.
On his throwing hand.
Yep.
Right. And so to sit and say, I'm just tired of it, we're not winning. It's like, we've lost 3 games. One of which he was in the full game against A&M, and we just got our butts whooped.
Mm-hmm. Good team.
Second game, he was in a series or 2 with a bum ankle, and then it broke his wrist against Alabama. It dislocated a finger and then broke his wrist. Back-to-back plays. Tried to play against Oklahoma, right? And was not able to. They held them out.
Luckily, Oklahoma sucks enough that
right. And I think that was a good calculated risk.
Yep.
And then,
but ask yourself as a fan, why are they playing him with a broken wrist? Because he gives you the best option to win.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have a perfectly healthy guy who actually was the quarterback in that Oklahoma game, but you're going to play Brady Cook. Not because Brady's like, I want to play a coach. It doesn't matter. He gives them the best opportunity to win. You got to look at that as a fan, whether you think people suck or you think people are no good. The people actually in charge of winning games, and if you think that your program is really good, that should tell you something. You shouldn't have that disconnect as to
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. And then the guy, I mean, slightly above average is what the guy's term was for all three of those guys. And Cook is the last 2 seasons, 5 losses at University of Missouri, playing in the SEC.
Yeah.
5 losses.
Yeah. So is that guy Uncle Rico? Is he out in the backyard? Like, I could throw it over that mountain.
Yeah, if coach just put me in,
coach just put me in.
Things would have been different.
So back to we were talking about the quarterback from Kansas City who I suggested he learn some other skills. A young man who's coming to the elite middle school combine, which is
February President's Day, February 17th.
February 17th. DM'd me wanting to know, he's a quarterback, but he's like, would it be possible for me to work out a quarterback and receiver? Mind you, he's a middle school kid. He's like, because I want to increase my opportunity to play on the next level, and I want to showcase both sets of skills that I have.
Yeah,
that's
the way to do it.
Really smart for a middle school kid. Right.
And then going in with that same attitude to high school and like, hey, where am I going to get on the field? Right. Yep. And I will tell you, as long as I've coached quarterbacks, there are certain quarterbacks that could certainly play other positions, but they probably wouldn't be the impact guy that they are. Yep. So if you're one of those guys and you know that you probably are, there's not many other positions for you, you stay the course. But there's other guys that are playing the position that can play 5 other positions. Right. And so, yeah, I think that's not a bad idea.
No,
going open-minded.
Yeah, he's a really talented kid. So talk about the middle school combine since we're mentioning it.
So that will be Monday, February 17th at the St. Louis Athletic Center, which is in Fenton, right off of Highway 44. So we'll have kids that are 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Will be all current kids will be able to participate. We're going to run it just like our elite football combine. They're going to get tested in the 40. Yeah. Broad jump, vertical leap, pro agility, and then we will have drills, position-specific drills, and then we'll do one-on-ones. So the O-line, D-line will do their one-on-ones. Mm-hmm. The receivers and DBs will do their thing, and then running backs, linebackers will do their thing. So it should be fun. And a lot of those guys, like for me, the 8th grade guys should double dip. They should be, doing that first, and then do the elite comments. So that way they'll be used to it, right? And so we've gotten that question already. Should we do one or the other? It's like, you technically should do both. Because one, the speed, you're going to be the big dog at the youth one, at the middle school one. You go to the high school one, you're not the big dog anymore. And so getting better at those things. And we have kids. This is why you start to spend time now preparing for that, right? We have kids at our facility right now that are already starting to work out, get back in shape, sprinting and doing all that work, and that are starting to get ready for their combine stuff that's going to be in February and March, right? That's why I'm not a huge fan of doing, combines in, November, December, because quite honestly, like, you're just not ready. You're just not. Right. Why are you not ready? Because you just got out of a season, right? We're testing a lot of kids on the force plates to see where they're at. You can tell the kids that worked out in season. You can tell the kids that kind of backslid during the season. Yeah. And it's pretty obvious. So, my advice is, if you're not lifting and running, you better, and if you're playing still, do what you've been doing, finish it out. But if you've not been taking care of your body all season and your season's done, don't fool yourself.
But the middle school combine, it's a great stepping stone for you. If you have that desire to play on a high level, on the high school level, and aspirations to play beyond high school, it lets you know where you're at, lets you know where you got to work on. You're around a lot of other dudes who same thing. You know where you're fitting in, and it'll give you an idea what path you need to take.
Right. So, how much work you got to put in, and or if the work you've been doing is working. Right. It also helps you, like, gain self-confidence, like stepping up in line, getting your reps. Because even at the middle school age, there will be guys that are rep hogs that are going to try and take reps. You got to step up and assert for yourself, and be willing to be involved and advocate for yourself and say, no, I'm up next. Right. Yep. And so,
it's a huge eye opener.
It's an eye opener.
And so I highly recommend it. And then, and then, like you said, you go to the elite, the Big Dog Elite with the high school. And then a few months later, you get to KC varsity. And it's just a path. You're going boom, 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 and
then you got Leonardwood.
Right.
And then it's like, damn, summer's already here.
And it's all preparing you. Those combines I mentioned prepares you for Leonardwood.
100%.
And guess what? All these guys who did that journey, right, went to the elite, went to KC varsity, they show up at Lindenwood. Those are the dudes who get the offers.
Yeah. We're not surprised when you see it, because those guys are prepared. They're in shape. They're mentally in a position to do well, because they're not like it. Admittedly, it is a lot to take it in. When you're there, it is a lot. Like when you and I were involved, but even when you take a big step back, I'm sure there's a lot of parents sitting in the stands going, "Oh my gosh!" Like, like they finally had that chance to zoom out and be like, "Oh, my kid's good," but there's a lot of other good kids too.
I hear that all the time from parents. Like, "Wow, I'm really surprised at the talent." And what's even better is when you go to Lindenwood, if you've done elite, you've done KC varsity. Guess what? The exact same thing, and the same people who run that. Right.
It's there's it's being comfortable.
Because who runs that?
The same guys are doing right? all the timing. Exactly. I mean, I try to tell kids, like, you have to be proactive in this recruiting thing, right? And part of 100%. That is having people that advocate for you. The more you're around things and opportunities for people for you to judge them and see them and scout them and evaluate them, the better the chances are. Because who are you going to give the benefit of the doubt to? The kid that you have no idea that or tells you he's going to be somewhere and never shows up, and then he finally shows up the one time. Can you trust that person, right? Are you going to put your name on him? Probably not.
Right.
The benefit of the doubt goes to the kid that's the guy that's getting after it, trying as hard as he can, who's consistent and doing what he says he's going to do. And I think
people who know,
and you get to build a body of work,
right? And then people will ask you, coaches will ask me, and we vouch for that. That means something after our 20 plus years of
and that's
doing
it.
This.
And that's why you do it. You want to be proactive. You want to give people an honest assessment about kids, and you're never going to go make up something about somebody that's not true, right? But there are a lot of coaches who downplay kids because they feel as though that guy might really hurt their reputation if they don't really know what they're evaluating.
Right.
And that's why when you say something to someone about them, and I do, I'm accurately just telling you exactly what I know. Yep. Like I'm not hedging. I'm not, like, it is what it is. Like, this guy's a guy, or this guy is, but you got to be aware of this, this, and this. I mean, you got to be fair, because the colleges want to know all the stuff that right? They're still going to make their own assessment and judgment. And what we don't, like, what you and I don't know, sometimes they'll tell us, we don't even know, like, when we're telling them about a certain kid, about like what their situation is, right? Like, and so, like, did they get a transfer portal guy? Is their head coach throttling down? Are they going to change their system? So now they're kind of doing away with tight ends. We're talking about a tight end, and they're not even going to use a tight end, the next season.
Yeah. Man, what's crazy, real quick, is think about fullback and where that went.
Yeah,
just disappeared.
South.
It's great. Got a couple minutes left. Let's talk about the playoff games coming up this weekend. Some interesting ones. Jackson at Kirkwood. After the big Kirkwood win. I mean, how about that game? How about Kirkwood taking out CBC? Didn't see that coming.
No, I mean, I know Kirkwood's obviously a really good team. To me, probably dangerous. Yeah, when they're good, they are good, right? And so they have a lot of athletes. They're well coached. They get on, if they get on you early and they feel good about themselves, I think they're going to keep rolling. Yep. Jackson's obviously a really good team. I think it's going to be a tough match for them on a lot of athlete for athlete level.
Yeah.
But it's the playoffs. You never know what's going to happen, right? And would we have thought that, hey, CBC is going to lose? No, odds are that they're probably the favorite in that game, right? But you got to play the game. Things happen.
I think there's a chance it's going to be a high-scoring game. It should be a fun game.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be at that game.
Yeah, Jackson. Oh, good. I'll check that off. I don't have to do that. MICDS at Fort Zumwalt West. I mean, another one where it's just like, a lot of people really didn't talk a lot about MICDS or Fort Zumwalt West. Fort Zumwalt West knocking off Fort Zumwalt North, who, had some injuries and really wasn't the team that people thought. MICDS, I'm telling you what, man, they're a real sleeper team. They got the linemen. I know they're dealing with some injuries, which is going to be tough for them.
They got just top to bottom, good athletes, well coached. They have just
peaking at the right time.
Yeah, and they've gone and played good teams. Yes. Like their schedule will benefit them. And I think West is a team that probably had a lot of hope going in the season. Then kind of
they got a lot of athletes.
Got beat up a little bit, and then now they're getting healthy, and now they're they got a good team.
I was just watching their practice yesterday. Yeah, it should be a good game. So that's another fun one if you want to go, entertaining game. Kearney at Warrensburg. Warrensburg, solid team. Kearney's a machine. I mean, I'm gonna be really shocked. What kind of sucks is I think that Kearney and Luther North meet up to see who goes to the championship.
That'll be a state championship level
right there. Game. Speaking of which, Nixa at Lee Summit North. That's going to be a battle, that's where I'm going to be at. You can be at Kirkwood. I'm going to be at Lee Summit North, enjoying that Big Jackson Cantwell. I mean, that team's just really, really good, top to bottom.
Yep.
In every aspect. So is Lee Summit North. So something's got to give.
That should be a battle.
It should be a battle. I mean, you're talking about huge linemen, both sides. Everybody's got everything. Nice quarterback play, running backs. So it's going to be D1 guys, Isaiah Mosey.
Yeah, high level kids on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, our old friend Marcel Reed is doing well over there.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's going to be a fun one. Platte County at Webb City. Rocco Marriott. I tweeted out last Friday night. I'm like, every D1 school in the region, offer him.
I don't get it.
We're running out of time, but we can go over that. But again, portal. You're talking about the decision makings at that, but I mean, it's going to happen. And somebody's gonna get them. But again, nobody's doing it. I was talking with a coach about a kid who doesn't have a Mizzou offer yet, but yet they have offers from Oregon, and I'm like, it's gonna come.
Yeah.
You just gotta wait. Everybody's got their own different deal. And then on the next day, on Saturday, man, what just what great games you get to go to. Kirkwood or Jackson or Lee Summit Northern. And then the very next day, you're going to have Luther North at Parkway North, which Parkway North features Luther North's quarterback from last year. It's just like crazy. You get Dakari Hollis, you got Jonathan Moore who replaced him, who just had a monster year. So there's going to be some, Parkway North has a couple
and I think they jamboreed earlier this year together. So
they did. And so
they got a little feel for each other.
That's going to be a rivalry game, just out of nowhere. So that's going to be fun. Park Hill at Liberty. Liberty is a sleeper team, but I'm not really surprised. They've got a big time running back who's, I think he's rushed for over 2,000 yards. Yep. Huge lineman. And some of those guys you saw at Lindenwood and KC Varsity, the Bindell brothers, there's three of them, right? Lineman, one's a nose guard, one's a big offensive tackle, one's a linebacker, fullback.
That's great when you get them to be in the district.
It's great. Yeah, it's so great. So that's going to be Parkway North. They've got some athletes, nice quarterback. And I mean, they're just a total. I'm not surprised that either team is there. DeSmet and Rockbridge. That's going to be a game.
I agree.
Dylan Duff, Brady Davidson, you need to go there. You need to go to that.
Where's that at?
I thought it was at DeSmet, but I'm seeing now. I'm looking at this schedule. It says it's at Rockbridge, so I don't know if it's at DeSmet. You definitely got. Definitely got to go.
That should be a battle, and Brady Davidson and obviously Dylan Duff, two top guys in the state.
Oh man,
should be a battle royale.
It's going to be killer. I'll try to hurry this up. Fastest at Gateway STEM, another good game. If you're a fan, you got to get out there.
Good for Coach Dulick, man. Undefeated. Yes. He's been grinding for all those years, and he's got his team doing great. And then obviously Festus is a damn good football team.
Oh,
so it should be a good battle.
AJ Ofadale.
Yep.
Head coach there, Jason Dulick, Mizzou versus Illinois.
Mizzou versus Illinois guys.
Over there.
They might have played against each other in that bragging rights game, the football game.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And then, of course, you have Lafayette at Cardinal Ritter.
I'm thinking about that one on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be the game. If you're not at DeSmet Rockbridge, which is going to be you want to be at that one. I mean, it's just,
and it is interesting because those two teams, it's interesting because I would have liked to see the Eureka Ritter matchup just because you got the big team, but because they both have big lines. But Lafayette is just got an interesting group of kids, and it's one of those things that I think. I don't know. I think it should be a good game. I mean, you never know, but you just never know. You got to let the chips fall when they may. But I think it should be a fun game.
It should be. They're a big physical team. They're going to grind it out, and of course, Ritter just loaded with D1 skill position players: Carson Boyd, DJ Miller, Jamarian Parker. So it's heating up, man. Now is the fun game.
Yeah, this is the fun game.
Get out and see a game. You're going to see a lot of talent. Should be decent weather. Be football weather.
Yeah.
So get out there and enjoy it. That about does it for us. Anything else you need to add?
Nope.
See you next week. We've ran it on down. Yep. Boom tryouts.
Yeah, boom tryouts, combine, and then getting in and training. I mean,
starting January 5th.
January 5th, but like the performance training's going on right now. We have a lot of groups getting started with our lifting, our off-season performance. A lot of groups going with that. I think the facility's been packed. I mean, it's that time of year. We got a lot of kids are back in there.
There is no off season.
No, there's not.
Football is a year-round sport. So is a Football 360 show. Enjoyed ourselves as always. You want to reach out to us, you can through social media. I am JP Rock MO. There we go. Hits the screen. JP Rock MO on X. JP Rock Scout You on Instagram. And for you,
Elite Football on X and Elite Football Academy on Instagram. And check us out on
that'll do it.
Football360show.com.
Yep. Throw us a question. Apple as well as Spotify. You want the audio version, you want to check it out again. Everybody have a great, safe week, and we will talk to you next week. See ya.